what I'll do is I'll most probably have a look at it after we've recorded, edit it, to make sure there's nothing too dodgy on there. And then I can send you over as well if you want, mate. And I'll also
I'm easy, mate. Yeah, I don't mind really. It's not really something I've delved into just yet, so I was quite happy for you to kind of put it to me to actually jump in and get involved with this sort of thing. So
to be honest with you, mate, you're somebody that kept popping up for quite a while that I wanted to have a chat with, just because obviously your background and whatnot, and from what I've been told of you, and from, you know, I think we briefly spoke, seemed like a really nice kid, mate. Like, you seem very down to earth, you know, like very approachable. You made me feel welcome. So yeah, you know, I've been looking forward to having a chat with you about all stuff related to strength and whatnot.
Yeah, no, that's sound, mate. Thank you. I don't really think there's much room not to be kind of at least have time for people and stuff. And, you know, like, if I don't really think it's high profile enough sport, especially not within the UK, to be, well, in the slightest like arrogant or, you know, big time or anything like that. It's just,
I mean, at the same time, anybody who's you know, excels in a field does have that potential to be, I wouldn't say arrogant, but, you know, like maybe think that, you know, they're better than other people. But, like, you know, from what Neil told me, and from what I've seen and from what I've been told, very down to earth, mate. Like, and it's great because for people like myself who are maybe just getting into strength sports, obviously, like, picking your brains is going to help us out massively. So yes, obviously, like, you're I would say, like, the thing that you're most renowned for is most probably your squatting. I've seen some of the videos, mate. It looks tremendous. It's almost unfathomable to think that somebody can squat that amount of weight and it's not just, you're not just squatting it in any old fashion. It's like perfect form. Obviously, it doesn't look easy, but it doesn't look difficult either. Like, the weight is what we're talking. I think I've got down here that you did was it 325 kilo squat at 82 kilo raw?
Yeah, that was last August at the GPC Brits. That was like my second real big cut, going from the 90s down to the 82s, and I've done the 350 since at competition, but that was at 89.5 body weight.
That's crazy.
I'd say my best squat in terms of like pound for pound would probably be the one that I did last September over at the Irish Pro, which was 340, but that was at 83 kilo body weight. So
that's very impressive.
I mean, only maybe just over 12 months ago, I'd just broken past the 700 pound mark, which I was really pleased about. And that was kind of like the next big milestone. And I didn't think it would kind of happen as quickly as it did. And now all of a sudden I'm here sort of thinking of like 800 pounds next. So,
well, this is it, right? And it's always, you know, once you get to that point, you're always thinking, right, okay, now what do I do? Like, where do I go from here? Like, same for myself, mate. I'm looking to pull that 700 pound deadlift. That's the next logical or next milestone, I guess, for myself.
I think that's just the sort of athlete / competitive mindset that a lot of people have. Some people don't, but I think it's, I imagine you were exactly the same at Tatted and Strong when you pulled your 300. To me, it looked like quite a smooth lift, and you probably look back at the videos after it had kind of all calmed down and thought, I probably could have done a little bit more, or I want to do more next time.
Well, the thing was, there was a debate between myself and Neil, like, do we go for 310 on this? But prior to that, I'd never pulled 300, so it was, you know, it was a case of get that under my belt and then I can
Yeah,
work
that's
on
it.
that. But it
Yeah,
pulled
there's
real easy,
always
mate.
next time, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that felt pretty damn light, to be honest with you. Like,
Yeah,
obviously the adrenaline gives you, for me personally, it gives me a kick up the ass, and it definitely helps in that situation.
yeah. I think it's, again, the competitive environment is great for most people, but if, again, you're one of these people that kind of nerves do get the better of you, it can kind of make you go either way. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just how you handle yourself and keep your head straight. And I think just doing everything in training exactly as it would kind of come about to a degree on competition day is probably the best way to keep you sort of straight headed, is just so that nothing changes, really.
I agree completely. Yeah, I think that applies to most things, to be honest with you. You know, that saying, how does it go? It goes, fail to prepare and prepare to fail. So, yeah, I think the more you practice something, the more it instills that subtle confidence in you.
Yeah.
And obviously that experience as well. The more times you do it on, like a big platform. Like I just, for myself, it felt relatively comfortable, but I think that's because I've got a background in sport. So like the pressure, I know what that feels like. I know like how my body deals with it. For me, I've got to completely downplay the occasion and almost jerk it off. Whereas for somebody else, I might actually need to do the opposite. But I know that my adrenaline can like spike really hard if I think about it too much. So, that's what works for me personally.
What was you just said then you've got a background within sport. What sport specifically was that? Or
I used to play rugby league. I played at a relatively high standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I played abroad for a year or two, and I played top flight amateur, and then like semi. I would say like semi pro, getting paid, but not enough to give up a day job sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, sure.
But yeah, but this, for me, I feel like this is far more suited towards my personality. With this, I suppose it's a case of, you've got your coach and whatnot, but ultimately, a lot of it lands upon yourself. It's quite an individualist pursuit, which I like. I think I prefer that.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of people kind of regard powerlifting and strength sports as you sort of like indirect team sports, just for the kind of the people that help you get there along the way, I guess. But in terms of like performance, like as long as you're prepared efficiently, like you've only got yourself to blame or praise on the day. So it's kind of, something goes tits up, then like you can't blame one of your teammates. Like potentially back playing rugby, like I used to play football growing up, and it's so easy just to look at someone else and be like, oh well, you should have tackled them. Or whereas now, like if you make a mistake, you're just like, well, yeah, it's my fault, I need to do better next time. And I think it's a good learning curve as well.
Definitely, yeah. It's all controllable as well, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for anybody who's like thinking about getting into like powerlifting or even just practicing compound exercises, is there any tips, especially with the squat, that you could potentially give that would improve a person's lift?
The squat, I'd say, probably has the most options or the most variables. So I think if it's, let's say it's powerlifting, it would be a good idea to figure out which type of squat you would be competing in. So that there's raw sleeves or bare knee, raw wraps, and then you've got the equipped route, which is probably not anywhere near as many people looking to get into that immediately. So I'd say figure out if you want to squat and wraps or not, and then it's going to be a case of pretty much assessing your kind of genetic makeup and just trying to minimize the trial and error period of what the most efficient technique and stance and position, etc., is going to be for that person.
Yeah.
It's quite, I say, straightforward to kind of just look at someone and have a rough idea of how they might want to squat, but there's a lot of other things that come into play. So I think the first thing is just don't worry about what you can or can't squat. I'd say it's first and foremost is what does that squat look like and can it be improved? If so, find someone who knows how to get that looking better, or so just basically find a way of getting your technique sort of first. Things like sleeves, wraps, belts, like they all do help, but they're all kind of a secondary sort of tool I would put in. I would just go absolutely raw, no equipment used. Several sort of screening tests, maybe like ankle mobility would be a good one. Just a lot of the time that dictates, especially with people with maybe like the longer femur lengths, whether or not they'll need to use a shoe with like an elevated heel perhaps.
Okay.
But generally it's going to be technique. It's the same for all three in my opinion, and I think there's not, until that's kind of nailed, there's not really anything else to consider until there's ground to sort of move forward with that solid technique.
I agree. Would you say as well, depending on where you are in terms of like age, experience, weight, that technique could change?
I don't think age really would have any sort of impact on how the technique should or could be. It would probably be more of a case of, let's see, you're always going to want to go in with your strongest type of lift. So let's say it's a low bar squat, for example, and you get, I don't know, let's say you put 50 kilos on it in a year. Your body generally, if your technique's good and your positional aspect of things are relatively good, you shouldn't kind of develop too many issues sort of elsewhere. For example, like the low bar is pretty renowned for putting a lot of strain on the elbows, bicep tendons, the shoulders, across the pecs. And unless your position is becoming an issue as you get stronger, I would say that there would be no real need to change it, as long as it's not a technical issue that's stopping you from progressing.
Right.
The only other thing that would probably be a good idea would be to, again, depending on the person and what might need work, but let's say they're a low bar squatter again, but maybe don't quite activate the quads as much as they would like, or they want more quad work, for example, then I don't know, a high bar squat, a front squat, other squat variations would be good. But generally it's go with what you're strongest with, and there's a little bit of a battle against like what can you do comfortably and what can you do more of, but is it potentially going to put more stress on certain parts of the body? Generally finding that sweet spot where you can lift sort of maximal weights without putting any extra stress on any areas, you're winning. But sometimes see it now and then really when people will need to adjust their technique and they can't lift quite as much, but there's a bit more longevity with it.
I know what you're saying. I mean, recently I changed, because I'm not a very big squatter, in all fairness, but it's not something that I've really focused on. up until recently. If you was to look at my other lifts, it's quite low in comparison. But I think that's a lot of that will be to do with just learning the technique that works best for me. I know I've got very long levers and short torso, so that could have some effect. But I recently changed to a lower bar squat. I always thought that my bar was pretty low, but from actually looking back at some of the videos that I've taken of myself, it's actually quite high. And after having a conversation with Neil and just going through it with him, getting that bar low on the back does feel very, very different and quite restrictive if you're not used to it as well. But then once you've done it a few times, it starts to feel a little bit more natural, I would say.
I think you might have noticed, if you follow some of the big heavyweight squatters, a lot of them they'll almost struggle to get their hands in under either side of the collars going low bar, just because of how one, how big they are, I guess, and two, how much of a restrictive position it can place you in. But you can, in my opinion, you can go too low with it, and then I think that's when it becomes, you see a lot of people becoming a little bit too hip dominant with it. Then it becomes a little bit of a good morning. And I think one of the key things is to have kind of like an element of like synchronization between how the hip and the knee are both extending on the way up. I mean, the way down is important as well, but you can kind of get away with not being quite so perfect on the way down. On the way up, I think you're going to kind of just completely fold or tip backwards. If not, so.
And as you say, if you're doing it with a technique like that, then it essentially becomes a different exercise completely.
I mean, it's hard for a lot of people who do stuff a certain way for so long, and then they address an issue or they identify an issue, and things have to change quite drastically. It's almost like they know it's bad, but do they keep with it because it's a stronger one, or at which point do things have to balance down and kind of go with what the better one for long runners?
And I suppose for a lot of people as well, it's a case of they want it that badly that they're maybe willing to risk the health to some extent in order for them to achieve a certain lift. Saying that, generally the person that's in it for the longest is the one that's the strongest, I would say. Without injury, obviously.
I mean, that's one of the things that I think has made me so particular with my lifting technique, is seeing people along the way who you kind of look at and think, oh, they're probably going to be one of the best in the world at some point. A couple of years in, and they've fallen to pieces. And that's, I know a lot of the time that can just be down to genetic misfortune, and some people have, they just got that genetic makeup to be that good or to be that much better than everyone else. I mean, John Hack for me would be the most obvious example of that. I mean, he just doesn't look like he should be able to shift anywhere near as much weight as he does, and he makes it look ridiculously easy as well. It's
crazy.
It's just nuts. But I read something the other day. I can't remember where it was. I think it might have possibly been one of the elite FTS posts. It was talking about injury and powerlifting, and the amount of people that think you will, or you're more likely to get injured whilst lifting your max lifts or your 2 or 3 attempts at competition, or the top stuff you'll be lifting. But in reality, that you're so particular about those top lifts that you're so sure that everything's going to be perfect, and unless you make a mistake, everything should be perfect. And it's probably more like the submaximal weights or the warm-ups or the down sets, where you've done the hard stuff or the heavy stuff, let's say, and then people get a little complacent and, I don't know, maybe don't quite put the belt on in the same position, or just it's easily done. But that's probably one of the things that I've done along the way, is just with absolutely everything. You just like 25 kilo bar, like with no plates either side, just my first warm up on squats. I'll treat that like it's 300 odd kilos, and I'll try and move it with as much intent and as much just perfect technique as I can. And the only thing, a few people mention this to me. I think you said something similar at the start there, but it's exactly how it should be, I think. But a lot of people say, they'll see me warm up with like a couple of plates and then up to my top set, and they say everything looks exactly the same. It's just being slowed down a little bit. Yeah. And then obviously as it gets up to the top, it's a lot slower, but everything still looks exactly the same, in the same positions.
It's what Ed Cohen says as well, doesn't he? He said like everything is drilled like 1,000 times. Everything's the same. Everything's like, from like the setup when you get underneath that bar to the walkout, to the actual lift. Everything is drilled 1,000 times, and the aim is just to get it as perfect as possible. That movement pattern, as perfect as you possibly can make it. I
think that's something. Sorry, mate, I was going to say, I think that's just something that can't really be achieved without experience and without practice. I know some people will be sort of genetically better suited to a movement, probably like myself, to the squat, but I've probably done however many thousands or millions squats over the last 10 years, and it's only really in the last 3 or 4 years now that it has been perfect most of the time. There was a lot of kind of adjusting, a lot of
takes time, right?
It takes a lot of time to get it like that. So for anyone that's like, oh, why doesn't my lift look as good as theirs, it's probably because they've not practiced it as much.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, they say like 10,000 hours worth of study and application makes somebody, if they apply it right, an expert. Right. So you think about the amount of time that you spent just drilling that squat. I'd dare say it would equate to quite a few hours.
yeah, probably up to novice level or something going off that then. No, it's the same with trying to adjust technique, or even, I guess, unlearn something. If you have like a bad habit that's developed over several years, like that's going to be equally as hard to get rid of as the new piece of
I agree
technique
completely.
Is to learn. So
plenty of bad habits, mate. I've got plenty.
I think unless you get like a good coach from day one, and you start off without that whole trial and error period, then sure, certain things are going to happen, which you maybe would be better off having not done, but that's kind of, I don't think anyone just rocks up to the gym and thinks, oh, I want to be a powerlifter, or oh, I want to.
I think it's very few and far between that just go, that's exactly what I want to do. I think it's, for a lot of people, including myself, it's a build-up over time. And obviously, like, trying it out, getting to a point where, actually I'm sticking with this and I'm seeing improvements. As I said earlier on, people like ourselves, we like to see progression. So I think when you're in the gym and you're actually seeing those numbers move, then it sort of gives you a little bit of a taste of what it could be like. And then obviously your next step is you know, perhaps getting a coach, somebody who knows what they're talking about. And then after that, if you get into a point where you're pretty damn good, then maybe enter in a competition just for the experience and just to see. So yeah, I agree. I don't think many people, should I say, go straight in day one. And yeah, I suppose it's like driving a car as well. Like, you know, for ourselves, assuming that you drive, we must probably have picked up lots of bad habits. And if we was to do our driving test again, I dare say we most probably would fail, which I guess is why most people start off driving with an instructor to get to that point where they can pass that test.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good comparison, really. And like, if you were to just jump in a car and start to try and drive around, like, you know, a motorway or something, it would be carnage. And it's kind of, I know there's a lot of good stuff online, like free content available online with thousands of different good level lifters and coaches, but a lot, like, times probably are a little bit different now to like when I first started training. But all I kind of really did was kind of followed what the next strongest or the next best shaped guy was doing, and just basically just went from there, really. And sort of, he's in better shape than me, so I should probably be doing what he's doing. And I think it's easy to make mistakes, and I think if you can eliminate them or reduce them as much as possible, then you're probably setting yourself up for a much better career of lifting, I guess, in the long haul.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it even comes down to people just wanting to get fitter, stronger, healthier, in better shape. You know, I suppose this is like not a advocate. Well, yeah, I suppose it's an advocation of coaches in general. You know, a lot of people go into the gym, and I guess they'll try things out for themselves. But A, there's a good potential that they may injure themselves, and B, that time and effort that's required for them to figure out how to do a certain thing to yield a certain result could be massively reduced if they have a really good coach to assist them in that process.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I've been training with Neil for maybe a year now.
Yeah.
And my strength gains have gone absolutely through the roof with him. And his knowledge is priceless, mate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, so I would advocate to anybody who's looking to get into any like sort of like strength pursuit to invest in a good coach. I would agree. And I'm sure, I mean, yourself, you have a coach as well, don't you?
Yeah. So I started working with Tom Martin last September, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It was just after the GPC Brits, where I'd managed to hit 10 times raw body weight total. And prior to that, I'd been doing all my own stuff. I had the gym that I've got now. I had that for a year or so, and started doing a lot more personal training, a lot more coaching. So I kind of pulled my finger out a little bit and applied it to my own training, and I got to a really good place. But then I just looked at it as I've been powerlifting for 3 years. I've got to this point where I am now. Where could I be in another 3 with the help of someone else that knows more than I do, or knows different things that I don't know?
I think that's a big one. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially for us as coaches ourselves. I think there's I wouldn't say like a universal mindset, but I think a lot of coaches feel like they know everything, when in reality they most probably know a lot less than they think they do. So to be
I just think,
open-minded to that possibility of actually, like, yeah, invest, even though you are a coach, investing in yourself by investing in somebody who maybe knows something different from you, has more experience than you. In my opinion, that can only help.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think you hit the nail on the head there. Just a lot of people who do coach, I think they either think they know everything, or they don't want to be seen to be asking other people for help.
Yeah.
And there's that many ways to go about what we do that I don't think that you could know. I don't think any, even, I'm sure, what, off the top of my head, Australian strength coach, I'm pretty sure there's still some stuff that he doesn't know or things that he doesn't use. And I'm sure if he had a conversation with, I don't know, Tom Martin, I'm sure they would both learn things off each other. And
Definitely, yeah.
I don't think there's any end product within the coaching or in terms of knowledge and just the journey of it all is kind of, there's so much more to come.
Exactly, because I mean, as a coach yourself, you're always learning, aren't you? Like, in terms of, even when you're training people, there'll be certain things that you learn whilst on the job. I know for myself, there's been loads of, I suppose, again, it's a case of trial and error. But then you notice certain things work better when you do it this way as opposed to that way. And then even the clients that I have might give me some advice, which sounds ridiculous as the coach and the person who's actually, being paid to essentially give your advice. But yeah, definitely there's occasions where my clients tell me things and I'm like, didn't know that, and now I do. Like, that's added to my knowledge base, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's just a good mindset to have generally, and I think that's another thing or another aspect to add into what we were talking about at the beginning again of being quite approachable and quite humble and open-minded, and I think it just shows that it's quite a good vibe to let off, that you're always wanting to know more and you're always eager to listen to and take the time to learn where you can. And
absolutely,
I think the opposite of that would just comes off as kind of, my way's the only way, and I just don't really, that kind of it's not something that I'm a fan of, to be honest.
No, I don't think it serves you as a person anyway. So yeah. I think you're right. So what I was going to talk about was your own training during this lockdown. Like, how has it affected you massively? I know that I've seen videos of you. You've obviously you own a gym, but you're training from home, I presume.
Yeah. So the whole situation, to be honest, was all a little bit just completely up in the air, to be honest, when the I think about 6 weeks ago now, when the gyms and leisure sort of sector were all ordered to close, it was kind of like, okay, well, what are we going to do here? In the end, we just decided to take some of the powerlifting kit that we have in the gym over to my girlfriend's parents and put it in their barn. So it's probably only sort of a small, maybe 3 meters by 4 meters space that we've got, but we've got one of the bench squat combo racks, which is probably one of my favorite pieces of equipment now, just because of how like space efficient it is.
Yeah.
It's one that I got from Strength Shop only in February, I think, just to add another bench press into the gym, or another comp style bench press, sorry. But we hadn't used it for squatting at all. We've got a monolith there as well. So I don't really remember the last time I didn't use a monolith in the gym.
Yeah, as you were saying, it's a very different experience for you now doing those squats, having to walk out and whatnot.
And I made a few jokes about it and stuff, but realistically, it is something that I should be able to do.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to learn or to improve walking the bar out for squats. And other than walking them out rather than being in the monolift, everything's pretty much the same as originally planned for this training cycle, which would have been finishing in 2 weeks, I think, or week and a half for body path.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, everything other than the only other variable that I would be doing now, which I'm not, is dieting to get within reach of the 82.5s again.
So I suppose it's quite a nice hiatus in that respect, not having to diet down so much.
Yeah, I mean, I actually do quite enjoy the process.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's because I don't know how you go about it, but the way I did it for Tattooed and Strong was, I think I was weighing in at about 90, about a week out. I was weighing in at 98 kilo, and so we did water loading and reduction, and also like calorie restriction coming up to that weigh-in. So so that was a new experience for me, mate. I don't know if you do it the same way.
I don't know if Neil actually told you, but he was the person I went to for advice on the water cutting protocol. I knew because I'd met him I think at the 2017. I think he was in the 82.5 class and I was in the 90 class at the GPC Brits.
Yeah.
So he's a weight class lower than me, and he looked twice the size of me. Yeah. And I remember speaking to him afterwards and just being like, "How the hell have you got down to 82 kilos?"
Yeah.
And so he briefly kind of went into it a little bit then, and it just always stuck in my head. And then I did the Brits in 2018 up in Scotland in like November, I think. I was walking around at about 90 bang on, I think. So I weighed in at about 88 after just playing it safe with food for the last couple of days.
Right. Okay.
So I sort of looked at that and was like, well, I'm pretty sure I could get down to 82. So I said, I spoke to Neil. I said, can I like pay for your services to get me down to 82? And yeah, he couldn't have been more sound and more helpful with the whole process. He just basically sent across the best, really quite detailed via email, I think, but the best process that he's done throughout his years of trial and error through them. So I pretty much just had this blueprint from Neil where everything was covered. The only thing that I do additionally to that now is just actually diet, so that I drop 2, maybe 3 kilos of fat the 6 weeks leading up to it.
So is that because you prefer to do it that way for body composition? Is it like a personal thing? Like
it's initially I'd probably do it every competition now, because I guess there would be a good reason to try and be better than last time. And if I did a cut the last time, or at least dieted, then I should probably do it again the next time. I didn't actually diet at the end of last year, but that's because I'd already done 2 back to back. But it's mainly so that I can get to 82 via a cut, because the extra couple of kilos of fat, I don't think I would get down there otherwise.
Yeah. So it's just a process that works best for you, essentially.
Yeah, it's drop the shit weight and basically fill that frame or fill that weight class with
quality mass.
Yeah, sort of stuff that's going to be of use, basically.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that makes complete sense. But I found the process very entertaining, because I'm I'm a big advocate of body composition as well. You know, it's something that I've focused on for many years, dieting and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I know what to do myself if I want to get into certain shape, if I want to lose weight, if I want to gain weight.
Yeah.
I kid you not, when the evening prior to that competition, I'd been like consuming God knows, like pretty much everything. And there's isotonic drinks. I don't know if Neil put you onto them as well.
Yeah.
Like there was, I think I'd gone through about 4 liters of that isotonic drink and another maybe 4 liters of Coke as well. So I was absolutely stuffed. But looking in the mirror, mate, I looked absolutely incredible. Like full on 8-pack. You know, like I was just filled out really, really well, but at the same time, really lean. I thought to myself, you could essentially do that before a bodybuilding competition.
Yeah. I think a lot of bodybuilders would do that to an extent. Probably the ones that compete within weight classes more so. So maybe like the 2-on-2 guys, they probably would do something along those lines. If not more, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. But the difference that your body can, or the changes it can go through in such short amount of time is actually just phenomenal. It's the first one that I did, which was exactly as Neil sent it over, and since I've done 2 or 3 since, I've made small changes, whether it's the order of what I've used with the sauna, the baths and stuff, or the foods that I refeed on, or etc. I've now got like a near perfect way of how I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just do it the same way each time now. But the first time I did it, I just couldn't believe what was actually happening in such a short space of time, and then how good I felt come comp day as well. I actually felt better than what I had done in all the training sessions leading up as well. So I think there's definitely a super compensation effect to it, and the amount of people that say weight cuts will have a negative impact on performance, and I just don't think that they're doing it right, anyone that says that.
Yeah, I agree. I felt pretty damn good on the day. Don't get me wrong, I found the work prior to it quite challenging, especially not being able to drink the night before and going down on the day. That was an absolute nightmare. Because all you can think about when you can't have something is that thing, right?
So if you're anything like I was on the first 2, I was particularly overkill with, but it's the carb depletion process where you get, say you're weighing in on Friday, you get to the Tuesday and Wednesday 0 carbs, and you have your last day of high water intake. It's not so bad, but it's that next day when you've got nothing to eat really, and if you have, it's just, I don't know, a few eggs or a bit of protein, bugger all water, and then the first few days leading up to it, especially with the water, it kind of keeps you busy. And then on that day, I'm just like, well, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like, I'll go to the shops and get all my refeed stuff. Completely dehydrated, starved, walking through every aisle, picking up probably 5-6 times as much food as what I actually need. And it's just all because it's the shit I'm craving at that time.
Highly relatable.
It comes to refeed day, and I eat the first bagel, and I'm like, I don't really want any more now.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, you get there, you think that's what you want, but then once you've got it, you just, you're not bothered, are you?
I think the only true thing that's actually like completely satiable is that first like liter of water.
Oh, unreal. Like
everything else just tastes the same after that, I find.
Yeah, and as for myself, I actually found the refeed and the having to consume that volume of liquid almost, in fact, I would say just as difficult as the cutting. On the evening, I was struggling just to like breathe.
Yeah.
It was a challenge, definitely.
I would say it was probably the first couple of times, probably the first time especially, the hardest bit. If you speak to Neil, I'm sure he'll tell you about it, but after my I'm sure he probably gave you a sort of a carb and salt drink to sort of make up with some other bits in.
Yep.
I basically went a bit too hot with the sugar and the dextrose, and everything. I think I had about 2 liters just sort of as soon as I got in. Everything just started coming straight out the other end. And I was just like,
I've heard about this as well. Yeah, well, there was a kid that trains alongside myself and Neil, and he did a competition a week or two prior, and he had the same issue. So, like, I was told to have Imodium on hand just in case that scenario occurred. But I was quite lucky, really. Like, I didn't have that issue. But you can see why it would happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's it all makes perfect sense, and I just kind of waited. Like, I was messaging Neil on the day, and he was just like, sort of gave me a bit of reassurance, and just
it's completely normal.
Yeah,
just wear 2 pair of pants.
Yeah, don't leave the house, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like once that was sorted, I still felt like I just felt awful all day. Like I felt almost hungover, but sort of like hypoglycemic at the same time, which it was obviously only the latter, but I just felt that rough from it all.
Yeah.
That like,
I suppose that's a steep learning curve for you.
Yeah. So the second one I did, I changed the foods that I introduced first on that refeed day. And I spent the whole day at the venue handling my girlfriend who was competing. And I was fine. I think we went out I think we either went out or we had some friends come over to our place that we were renting for some pizzas. And I was pretty sociable, and like the first one was absolutely awful. I didn't even want to leave the hotel room, and my girlfriend came up to where we were staying about 4 o'clock after she finished work, and I was just like, didn't want to see anyone, and just the dramatic change in sort of like how I felt through just making some small changes to suit me.
And again, I suppose that comes down to experience as well.
Yeah, I think it was just knowing sort of what things to. It's pretty straightforward, but just kind of easing things in rather than kind of throwing everything in.
Yeah.
From fasting for, I think, I'm pretty sure about 72 hours I'd fast for normally now.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Chris, sorry to put in there. I'm just going to, my battery's just running on this. I'm just going to turn it back on. Yeah, we're back in the game. Good. Yeah, so I suppose it's a lot of it just comes down to experience and just seeing how your body responds, and I suppose that would come down to a lot of other things as well. You know, like obviously, like just like your diet in general, but like any supplementation that you might take as well. Like how does your body respond to that? You know, what works well, what don't work well. But yeah, ultimately, I think it just comes down to that experience, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think this one's pretty suitable for comp day as well. But I think the best thing, or one of the things that I did that made a big difference, was not introducing anything kind of new that I hadn't been eating during that build up to that event.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first time around I was throwing in like I think it was loads of bagels and jam, and pretty sure I was throwing in like chocolate flapjacks and stuff at the start as well, and I just wasn't eating any of those things like leading up to it.
Yeah.
And then second time, I just kept the foods which I had been eating regularly and I knew I could stomach with no problem. And yeah, that made a world of difference, really.
Makes a lot of sense as well, I guess. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. You know, it's I suppose it's a bit like a science experiment. You wouldn't throw in completely different compounds if you're using a certain number of compounds. You'd always try to keep the variables similar.
Yeah,
so
or at least
sort of know, like, what's working and what's not.
At least keep them limited to a few, so that you can keep your fingers on what has changed and what it could be causing the issue, or
exactly, yeah,
whatever. But yeah, it's the cut is probably one of the most valuable skills, I guess, I've learned, or piece of knowledge that I've acquired in the last couple of years, which has made a big difference to my own performance, but also to the what I have to offer as a coach as well. So I don't speak to Neil loads. It's just kind of as and when, really. But yeah, I definitely learnt a lot from him just in that small sort of period of time that it was leading up to this competition. And yeah, sort of owe him a lot for his help still. He's still very humble about that. I think he actually said to me, like, no, I'm happy to help you, and like it's it's all fine, just make sure that you beat my records. So I was like, yeah, all right, I'll do my best. And then I think I spoke to him shortly after, and he was like, yeah, it's fine then. Yeah, it's all good. But
yeah,
it's sort of
again, I suppose it's all about helping each other out in a sense. You know, it comes back to being, open-minded and I suppose, like, you could adopt that mentality of thinking that you're superior, but you most probably wouldn't have learnt that skill if you'd have had that mindset.
Definitely not. No, it would have just. I see a lot of people who are very close-minded about the weight cuts in general. Whilst I kind of understand what some people, like me, for example, competed at 82, but was actually more like 92 on the day. At a 24-hour weigh-in event, it's well within the rules, so why not use them to your advantage?
I think anybody who's a winner will do anything that they can to have that competitive edge.
Yeah.
As, obviously, being within the rules, I know I would do it, and I did do it, obviously. So why not? Yeah, as you say, it's within the rules. It's well within the rules.
I think the main reason that I looked into sort of toying with the idea of doing it was because I'd done a couple of comps where I'd come from a junior into the opens, and I'd come from the juniors, kind of wasn't very competitive class. So I was just winning most meets that I did, or taking records at most meets. And then I kind of went into the opens and I won a few, come second in a few. And I looked at the guys that were beating me, and I mean, they were cutting into the 90s from, I don't know, 95, 96, 97. And I'm there walking around at 88. So I'm like, well, okay, well, maybe I should do it. And yeah, it turns out it was a pretty good idea, because it definitely.
For myself, I did the same thing the year prior. I entered Hull Strongest, so that's obviously where, like, myself and Neil are from.
Yeah.
So this was pretty much for anybody who wanted to have a go. But Hull's like a working class city, and as a result of that, there's a lot of very physical guys. which you tend to find in those sort of like cities, I think.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of gyms in Hull. Anyway, regardless, I entered the 105s, under 105s. You know, being 5'8", it's very, you know, weighing over 105 kilos. You know, it's quite difficult.
Yeah, hard to.
Yeah, but this was prior to me having any real knowledge on like water cutting prior to an event. And I actually rocked up to that event at 80, I think I rocked up at 87 and everybody else dropped in bang on 105.
Yeah.
But I won it, but at the same time, I just think, well, what could I have done if I'd have been, you know, that much heavier?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, in my opinion, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I think just having the majority of that weight, like we were saying, it being metabolic tissue rather than fat or extra water retention, that's doing, other than slightly improving leverages, it's doing next to nothing, in my opinion.
It could actually maybe be a hindrance as well if it's
yeah.
fat. So I suppose, you know, taking advantage of that and trying to make sure that the tissue that you do have on your body is useful is a skill in itself, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where the sort of the blueprint system for me now would come in, is just basically trying to look around the same in terms of composition. Obviously, like the aim is to have slightly better numbers each prep.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I would expect slight increase in body weight and ideally muscle mass. So like, yeah, I mean, if I compete, I don't know, let's say every 6 months, and if I can get, just for argument's sake, 0.5 kilo heavier at the same body fat levels, and my numbers are going up, I know that I'm improving, but I also know that I'm still within reach to make that cut to that class that I'm trying to get into.
Yeah, I suppose it's like a seesaw effect, isn't it? The more you do it, like the seesaw's like rocking pretty hard to start with, but as time goes on, you're fine tuning and you're tweaking it to a point where you're very stable and you know exactly what you're doing. I noticed that you also competed bodybuilding at some point.
Yeah, that was 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I did a couple of novice class competitions. I did the just like the Southwest MPA was the federation, the Natural Physique Association, I think it is.
Right. Okay.
So I did the Southwest qualifier, which went really well. Managed to win my class and then the overall as well, which was quite.
It's impressive.
I guess quite an unexpected thing to go and do on your first.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's really good.
It basically all came about because I switched gyms. So I was training over at a leisure centre for maybe like 5 or 6 years, from like, I don't know, 16 to 21, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved gyms in the same town, so it's only up the road. And it was one of these gyms that it had a bit of a bad rep. No one really knew anyone that went there, but everybody was 100% sure that there was only guys looking like Ronnie Coleman in there. And me and my mate one day, like, we were in the gym, we were like, oh, we need to try this place. And we were both scared, and we were like, oh, fuck it, let's just go. Like, the worst that's going to happen is they'll just tough us out. Went in there, there's this massive guy in there who owned it, and pretty normal looking, just kind of general gym goers and stuff. And we were like, ah.
Yeah, I think a lot of gyms do get that. Like the gym that I operate from, Peak Physique, that gets that misconception as well. It gets when I tell people that's where I operate from and I've trained from for maybe 15 years.
Yeah,
their response is, I guess, the same as that. Like, it must be full of, like, you know, absolute meatheads
Yeah.
But in reality, I would say it's the friendliest gym I've ever been to. Like, everybody gets along with everybody really well. Don't get me wrong, you know, you get all walks of life in there, but everybody has a commonality, which is I like to train. It's like no messing about, I guess. Like, it's, you know, everyone goes in there to actually train rather than just to, like, pose. And these new gyms, for me, you know, it's almost like sacrilege how like the industry is becoming or become, which I guess is most probably why I've gone more into a strength field, because you can't really cheat that, in the sense it is what it is.
Yeah, that's it. It's especially having done the two, bodybuilding and powerlifting now, I would say that's probably the clearest thing between the two, is that bodybuilding is, well, completely subjective. You can, I mean, I looked around on the first comp I did in the sort of the back room area, and I was looking at these guys who I was up against, and I was like, oh, he's got much better back than me. Oh, he's in a lot better condition than I am. And I was looking around thinking that I was maybe middle of the road, and then sort of seeing the photos up against them, you're like, oh no, like I deserve to win.
It's weird, isn't it, how you can skew, how your perspective can be completely skewed.
Yeah, and then with powerlifting, like, if someone lifts more weight than you lift, then there's no two ways about it. They have beaten you on that day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I quite like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I agree. I would say the same.
The only, I think the first thing that I initially thought when I was doing my first powerlifting comp was, like, with the bodybuilding, all of the hard work all of the work is done prior to the event. You're just showcasing it almost.
Yeah.
Whereas the powerlifting, you have to perform on that day.
It's also a pinnacle, yeah.
Yeah, so sort of the first couple of comps, I guess, I was a little bit nervous of having to perform on the day and in front of people with judges to certain rules and stuff, but it's by far a more enjoyable event to go to and compete at, but also a much more enjoyable training process.
Yeah, I think as well, the generally, like, not that I have a massive background in bodybuilding, but from what I've heard, and again from what I've sort of like seen when I've gone to watch competitions, there's a lot of animosity between competitors, whereas anything strength related, like powerlifting and strongman competitions, everybody is completely opposite. Everybody's like very, very supportive, which I think it just makes it a more pleasurable experience all around.
Yeah, it makes it an environment that you want to stay in.
Exactly.
Whereas, like, for me, the bodybuilding was kind of like, oh, I enjoyed that. Like, it was fun because it was successful, but I didn't make many friends for it. I know it was probably down to me being quite introvert and quiet, younger, first competition, etc. But yeah, I met people, but not really like I have through powerlifting.
Yeah.
And like the thing with Neil, like us both being in the same category in powerlifting and him still helping me out like he did. Like, if that was bodybuilding, you'd pretty much guarantee the person would just be trying to sabotage you or something.
Yeah,
that's probably two good comparisons there as to what the communities are like generally. I mean, it's probably a bit harsh on bodybuilding because I'm sure that it is really good.
I suppose it's a bit of a generalization.
Yeah. I mean, that was a little bit of a joke, but the two communities I found are just for that kind of like I can't think what I'm trying to say here. Just for how everyone is all on the same team, and just like the togetherness and the support that's there
I
is,
suppose it's a common appreciation of strength.
yeah,
And the like the ability that the human body, how can I say this? Yeah, the way that the human body is able to adapt in order to be able to lift these incredible feats.
yeah,
You know, like for me, I have nothing but respect and admiration for, you know, the weights that you can lift and what Neil can lift. If it was maybe another facet, like a different thing, maybe there wouldn't be that respect that's there. Maybe it would be a bit more like, as I said, like maybe a bit more animosity. But certainly with this, it's
yeah.
just, I just find it interesting, like what the human body is capable of doing. I know that Hathor today.
I was just about to bring that up as
Yeah,
an example. I think anyone that doesn't acknowledge just how impressive that is just an idiot altogether. Really, like there's no,
with ease as well, mate. Looking at that lift, it just went up like so easy. Incredible feat of strength.
yeah. I mean, there was a lot of shit talked about it before sort of the build up with like Eddie and like whether the record should count, all of this like kind of negative cloud over it, and it was like, well, hang on, like just let him get ready and go and do it, because he's still got to do it yet. And even, I mean, I was on this kind of side where I didn't think that it should be counted towards the record because it wasn't done within in like a contested environment with other competitors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like on the day with time restraints and rounds of lifting. That was my opinion on it, but it's still the biggest and the greatest deadlift that's ever been produced. It's just there's not any other way around it.
Do you know what I found really like interesting and yeah, the thing that I found most interesting about it is the fact that, you know, you'll have this milestone that people are trying to attain. So, you know, it was that 500 pound, like half a ton. Now it's been done. I dare say that, you know, now Hathor's done that, like 501.
Yeah,
I reckon people be breaking that pretty soon. You know, it's just amazing, isn't it? How like the mindset of something like that can and can't be done. Once it's been
yeah,
proven, then a lot of people follow suit.
it's quite weird how that actually works. It's like that was kind of first brought to my attention when I first got into powerlifting probably about 4 years ago now, with the guy that ran the gym that I was training at, and I think I just got up to about 300 kilo squat as a junior, and he was like, "Oh, that's like," saying how impressive it was and how it's such a big number, and then he was like, "But if you look around now," he said, "everyone's squatting 300." He said, "When he first got into powerlifting, 1 or 2 people were doing it, and now people are banging on the door for 400, and now it's again, I think Zlad's done 505 or 525 or something
Yeah,
ridiculous like that.
yeah.
The Iranian guy, I think he is. I'm not sure, but it's just like such a domino effect of like seeing something can be done, and then those psychological barriers are just almost wiped out altogether.
Absolutely, and I think that even that could apply to anybody, not just like your elite, but you know, coming down to go back to the gym that you was training from originally, that leisure centre. You most probably had like certain people within in that environment that were, you know, the best in that environment, most probably yourself. But then you get to that point and it's almost like a goldfish bowl like effect. And then
Yeah,
then you go to that bigger goldfish bowl, which obviously was that next step to that, you know, that gym.
yeah,
And then you'll meet people along the way, like doing your competitions, for example, like meeting you and Neil. And then the realm of possibility opens up even further. and you realize that like what you think is heavy and strong is, once you get to that level, there's another level there, and then there's another one and another and another.
Yeah.
So I suppose you're always chasing at you, as you said earlier on.
Yeah, just never being satisfied as to what you're capable of doing at this point. I guess it's.
Yeah, I think at the same time you've got to appreciate where you are. I mean, for yourself, I'm sure you look at where you are and where you've come from, and think, yeah, I'm proud of what I've achieved.
Yeah. I mean, if I look back like a couple of years ago, and someone said, "Oh, you'll total this with these lifts in 2 years," I probably would have, took the hand off of it.
Yeah.
And now the fact that I'm there and wouldn't be happy with anything like close to that again now, I think is just kind of, it shows that a lot. And it's just, I think that's what makes the whole process more enjoyable, is knowing that the kind of the limits, or like that roof is only as far as you allow it to hold you back, or allow it to set limitations. And it was, I remember seeing, again back at the Brits in 2017, seeing Neil, I think he benched 195. I'm pretty sure it was 195, and I think I benched around 185 or 187.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the class below, and I was just like, how is someone that weight benching that much?
Yeah, it was like that. What was the name of that guy that competed at Titled and Strong? I think he broke the British record.
Are you talking about the guy that did the bench only?
Yeah, he was 90s. He didn't bother doing the pull. Yeah.
Amar, I think he's called.
Yeah, that was incredible. That.
Yeah. I mean, I had spoke to him, I think a week or two before. He'd messaged me, and he just said, I'd never met him before that, and he just said, he's looking to cut into the 90s. He said he's already got like a plan. He said, is there any sort of general advice that you can give? And we had a small conversation. I looked on his lifts and his videos, and I'm sure he benched like 245 or 247 in the gym or something. Like, not a great deal of leg drive, pretty flat back, like just all tricep and pecs. Like,
yeah, he's an absolute upper body wise. He was just an absolute animal, mate. When he came in, I was like, no way is he 90s.
Yeah.
No way.
How do you think I felt when I saw Neil at 82? And like, I was just like, what the hell? But it is, I think that's like seeing someone else bench that much weight at 90 kilos. Like, it's still a long way off where I am, but now I'm sort of looking at that and thinking, well, it's doable.
Definitely, yeah.
The only person, again, that I don't really try to compare with at all, because I just don't think that they should count, is the John Hack again. Like, I just don't think anyone is ever going to come close to him. The person that I probably try to catch or keep up with, I guess, at the moment would be Dale Longford, who he's still got a few kilos body weight on me. So like, my plan is to be able to cut into the 90s from about 95, 96, 97 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've competed against him a couple of times, and just seeing some of the lifts that he's done in the past, back when I was like trying to chase 800 total, and I think he was around like an 830 or 835 at the time. And just seeing him bench 200 for the first time, I was like, again, it was only about 10 kilos off where I was, but it felt like a big 10 kilos away. But
it is really, isn't it? Like, when you get to that limit, that perceived limit, even a kilo could like seem like as proven today with Hathor, like just it's only 1 kilo, but it's still 1 kilo. It makes all the difference.
I was was having a conversation with Beth Lovett earlier whilst the deadlifts were on, and she was like, "Oh, moved 465 so fast. Like, do you reckon he's got 520 in him?" I was like, "I don't know. Let's see what 501 looks like first." She was like, "Oh, I find it hard to believe that he won't do it, gauging by that." I was like, "Yeah, the 19 from 501 to 520 though probably feels 10 times more than what."
Exactly, it's amplified, right? It's like it's like anything. When you get to that upper limit, everything amplifies.
Yeah.
And again, I suppose it just comes down to like reinforcing the fact that you can do that, and then next time you know, a bit more, rather than going for that big jump. So interesting stuff. I think most probably start wrapping up now, to be honest with you, mate. I think we've been chatting for well over an hour.
I think half of it has just been just sort of going into it with a little bit more sort of just going over stuff, chatting over it a little bit more rather than just punching out the
but I like to I've thoroughly enjoyed it, mate. You know, it's been good to have a proper conversation with you, and it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's confirmed what I thought anyway. You just seemed like a really nice, down to earth bloke, and I'm sure you've got, you know, some very insightful and useful information with regards to training, in particular with strength. So I'd love to have another chat with you at some point in the near future if you're up for it, mate.
Yeah, no, I've same as you, mate. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've mentioned a few times that I've not really done this sort of thing, but it's been a lot more comfortable and a lot more enjoyable than what I was half expecting, to be honest. So I'll definitely be up for it again, and try to be a bit more concise if I can as well, because my missus goes on at me all the time for dragging stuff out and sort of beating around the bush and stuff, and I don't even know I'm doing it half the time. But
I think we've got some really good content there. But yeah, I mean, for me, this is like a relatively new pursuit as well, and I suppose it's like anything really. The more you do it, the better you get. So
yeah, you know, I mean, that's what I said to Tor earlier on. She was like, "You've not done anything like that. What do you think it's going to be like?" I said, "Probably terrible, like on my part, but it can only get better the next time and the next time and the next time, and it's always the first time's always going to be the worst time. So just get it done." And
essentially, yeah. I mean, for myself, like just like from a business standpoint, doing videos of me talking about, you know, topics of interest, it's not something that comes very natural to me. So this is taking time to get to a point now where I'm pretty comfortable behind a camera. But it's improving. So so we'll keep cracking on with it, mate, and we'll see if we can come up with good content.
You seem pretty comfortable just like talking well, I know it's me there that you're talking to, but like, you seem like you've done it before. You seem comfortable doing it, and I think having you there to talk back to is what's made it a lot easier for me, rather than just sort of trying to talk to a recording camera or something like that.
I agree.
Which I've always,
when you've got that sort of like that interaction, it definitely helps make the conversation flow better.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think that's the thing with sort of YouTube vlogging, even just posting up videos of me talking. I've always kind of dreaded how it would play back me just talking to a camera, and I think that's why I've always felt so awkward about doing it. But like I say, I guess it'll get better the more you practice, and definitely. I think there's definitely a knack to it as well.
I think so, yeah. I think as well, it's a case of like you always think the worst of yourself, and you'll always be your harshest critic when it comes to this sort of thing. You'll always look back and go, for me, it's a lot of, especially when it's these sort of conversations, I'll say particular phrases over and over again that maybe people would pick up on. Most people wouldn't, but for me, I notice it like stands out like a sore thumb. So
I haven't noticed anything like that from today, but
Yeah,
I'll
but
keep a
again,
close watch for next time.
we're our own harshest critics. I've lost it now. Critics.
Yeah, I was a lot I was like it before I got into like coaching and PT, and I had sort of X amount of experience training. I'd done a couple of years at uni, done enough sort of academic learning, and had the gym and stuff. And I was like, still at this point, I was like, well, yeah, am I at a point yet where I can start like, you know, advertising and charging and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
taking it to the next step now and making, you know, proper living out of it. And I kind of looked round, and I was way too harsh as a, you know, too critical on myself, and I just sort of jumped in and just got kind of cracking on with it all, and obviously learned a lot just from the experience. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people that are pushing out a lot of other crap that, if they just sound confident in what they're saying, a lot of people just tend to buy it, I find.
You mean in the fitness industry in general?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a few people who I would call them charlatans. Like they're very good businessmen, but they don't have a clue when it comes to actual
Yeah.
application and actual true knowledge of a certain subject.
Yeah.
And then I know people who are most probably the opposite, have a massive knowledge base, but the struggle to relay the information and sell the information effectively. So I think it's just it's a balance, isn't it, between knowing your shit and also being able to present it in a way that people find interesting.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's just there's certain people that they will I don't know, they'll have the sort of the opinion that no publicity is bad publicity, sorry. And they'll almost just piss people off to gain acknowledgement or exposure.
Yeah.
And
but then
again, that's just really not me, that sort of approach. So I'm just trying to slowly kind of build up with half decent content, mainly just sort of results, I guess. I try to sort of let speak for themselves rather than trying to be too much of a salesman or anything like that. I guess I'm not very good at all of that stuff.
I think if you can walk the walk, you're almost there anyway.
Yeah, that's it.
But yeah, I mean, like I found your content interesting, mate. When I watch it, like it's every time, even though it's, you know, a lot of it is you doing certain lifts. The lifts themselves are very impressive, I guess. It's not something that you normally would see. So for me, like I always find it interesting looking at your content.
Yeah, thanks, mate. If I'm honest, I literally 99% use my Instagram just as a training log, just so I know what I've done when.
Yeah, I agree. Like I've done the same with a lot of my lifts, and sometimes like if I don't have some wrote down or whatnot, I can look back on my Instagram and go, okay, yeah, that's what I was doing on that day. So yeah, no, but I mean, you know, I suppose that's a doubly good effect then, the fact that you know you can use it as a log, and also people can be inspired by what you do.
Yeah, I think so. It's just be nice to get a little bit more informative stuff out, and a little bit more of the coaching stuff out as well. But now would be a good time to do it, I guess. But sort of generally with back to normal life, the gym, my other job, coaching, training, girlfriend, all kind of
all right, it's a lot going on.
Seems to eat up everything. So I just kind of, it sounds lazy, and it probably is, to be fair, but I just never get round to doing the extra stuff that I always would like to.
I suppose we tend to do the things that we're good at as well. So if you feel like that's maybe an area where you struggle a bit, you might want to you know, subconsciously you must probably go, okay, I'll put that a bit further down the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for myself, like this is, I completely understand where you're coming from. And prior to lockdown, I was literally working from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. every day, barring weekends where I have my daughter. So last thing on my mind is to be post content, but I suppose right now is a really good opportunity for us to maybe push a little bit. Hence why I think doing podcasts with yourself, mate, is a really good idea.
Yeah. Well, it was. It was all kind of over to you, really. It was, if you hadn't suggested it, mate, I'd probably, 100%, I wouldn't have. So yeah, I'm glad you came up with the idea, and glad you asked me to do it.
Nice one, mate. Yeah. I appreciate your time. But yeah, I'll have a little think, and if there's any other, same for yourself, mate. If there's any other topics or anything else, just let me know, because I'm always up for doing stuff like this.
Yeah, same. I'm pretty sure there probably is a lot of other things we've maybe just only touched over or didn't get round to altogether. But
I mean, what we could do is we could put out a post on your stories and my stories, and ask, you know, clients and followers what they would like to know more about and listen more to.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So today's been quite a broad, quite a long one, I guess. I assume you'll sort of cut bits out and stuff, but I guess it will still be a little bit lengthy. But it's quite an all-rounder, I guess. So you could almost break them down into little sort of sections or topics, I guess, and maybe just do, like, I don't know, 10-minute ones or something, or 20-minute,
yeah.
you know, just.
Yeah, I think having like a dedicated time frame often helps as well. So like say like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, and then we just focus on a particular subject. But yeah, quite exciting, mate. I think you know, there's definitely potential there.
Yeah, it's something that I never thought I would be looking forward to do again, to be honest. I thought I'd come away sort of like, you know, hating the sound of my own voice and watching it back, which I probably will do anyway, and be like, oh my god, do I really sound like that? And you know, just shit like that. But no, it's it's all been really good, really positive sort of feedback. So it's I don't know if that will have the same response from the other people that watch it.
Well, at the end of the day, I think a lot of time it's just consolidation of thoughts as well. You know, a lot of the time you'll be doing things, you won't actually be verbalizing those actions, but you know, I think it's the same with like writing things down. You know, if you write it down, it sort of compounds it. So I think it just orders like your thought process a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think it's good as well to kind of pluck sort of things that maybe you haven't gone over in a while and like retouch over them and almost just refresh a lot of stuff.
Definitely.
So a lot of stuff we've spoken about today, like I maybe in certain sort of conversations they will have come up, but I can't remember the last time I covered things like this or as many sort of things in one sort of sitting. So it's good just to kind of reignite that that flame of like wanting to learn more again now, and sort of think of the stuff that maybe we have spoke about and how I could sort of delve into those topics further, and you know, just sort of progressions of it all, I guess. But
definitely, yeah. I'm excited for it, mate. Yeah, definitely.
It's a bit like the gym. I went to get a few bits off this gym down the road from my missus' house, and he was getting rid of some old flooring, so I went and got it, and he's in there on his own doing just 101 different things. It was absolutely chaotic, but he'd made a lot of like improvements to it. And like my gym isn't anywhere near that size, but there's, because it's fairly new, new sort of in terms of how long I've had it. There's not loads of stuff that needs doing, but since going over there, like the last couple of weeks, like I messaged him and I was like, oh, you've sort of made me think to pull my finger out now. And I've been down there sort of every other day now, getting just like painting and respraying bits of kit and just actually doing productive shit rather than sort of lounging around the house waiting to train or, just being a fucking lazy turd.
It's not, now and again, there's nothing wrong with that, mate. But
yeah,
I mean, the gym that I operate from, obviously it's not mine, but I've known the family for like 15 years. We're like good friends, and they've had like a complete refurb, mate. So they essentially sold all of their old equipment at premium cost, and then with the money that they got from it, bought all new in.
Yeah,
it's sick, mate. Like it's like the gym itself is mint. It's like a proper old. It's like it's an old listed building, and it's got like 2 floors. The downstairs is like functional, and the upstairs is like bodybuilder style. But it's massive, mate. It's fucking huge, and I think this is exactly what we've needed. We've needed, like just because a lot of them pieces are mint, but they're like 30 years old, 20, 30 years old. So, it's a case of at some point you've got to replace, haven't you?
Yeah. It's definitely a good time to be doing that. It's just the probably the biggest problem for me is with it being not a huge gym, so it doesn't generate a massive income.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not my only income, it's sort of I have to be quite sensible about when I put money into it. But like this sort of last couple of months, or this last 2 months, been quite lucky with members because it's small and it's a close community. A lot this personal sort of community, I guess. So everybody's been paying the memberships, or most people have been still. So all the sort of spare money I've had coming from that, I've just tried to put straight back in. So even just little things like buying a couple of new benches and replacing the old ones, and just upgrading things like the sound system in there, and just little things which people probably will barely even notice, but will make a small difference, hopefully.
I think a lot of those small differences do equate to a big difference as well. If you keep on top of all these little things, then you're not going to need to have to eventually spend a shit ton of money to replace a lot of things, which was the issue that we had at peak. The downstairs had been renovated about 7 years ago, and then since then nothing had been done with it. And then we got to a point where it was leaking. Everything was like, the flooring was all like ripped up. It was like, as a personal trainer, it was quite embarrassing. So we had to make the executive decision to refurbish that. And then obviously that was done. So you may have seen some images that I've posted up on Instagram of the new downstairs. Neil might have done the same, I don't know. But then obviously since lockdown, they've thought like, why not? Let's make an effort and do the full refurb. So hopefully, fingers crossed, when it reopens, it'll be mint.
Yeah. Well, has there been much talk, as in sort of the steps that they're planning on taking, sort of when reopening comes around? Or I'm part of like a forum on one of the Facebook groups of just like sort of independent gym owners.
Right.
And a lot of people seem to think it's going to work on like a sort of like a traffic light kind of system, where certain facilities such as gyms and restaurants and bars are going to be in that red zone where it's going to take the longest to get back to normal.
Yeah. From what I've heard, I think it's the same deal. Obviously with gyms, it's most probably one of the most likely environments to contract like, you know, diseases and whatnot. So
yeah,
so it's, I suppose it's all up in the air a little bit. What I've done is I actually bought quite a lot of equipment a few years ago from a gym that was closing down, and I'm just renting out some of the equipment. So I've got like dumbbells, those hex dumbbells from 2.5 to 60 kilo in 2.5 increments that I just only put up the other day, but half of them have already been rented out. So that's just generating a little bit of cash at the moment.
Yeah,
I
nice.
don't know if you thought about that, or I think you've given a bit of equipment away, haven't you?
Yeah, everything free weight has gone. All the bars, plates, dumbbells.
Yeah.
Um,
You've done that free of charge, have you?
I've done that free of charge to members.
And obviously the members are still paying their subscriptions.
Yeah, it was kind of like a gentleman's agreement type thing, I guess. Like, I never said borrow this stuff, but you can't cancel, and they've not tried to cancel whilst borrowing stuff.
Yeah, I suppose it's on good faith. You know that everybody's
Yeah,
you know, like all of your members it's in their best interest to make sure that you're looked after during this time, because obviously they want to be able to use your facilities when it does reopen again. So
yeah, that's it. Like everybody wants the gym there for when it's all over, I guess. And the only kit I did rent out, I guess technically, was to only a small handful of people who I know already or know of, and I pretty much just said cover what a membership would cost and pay that as long as you've got the kit, basically. So they're just paying memberships essentially.
fair enough.
Which isn't, it's not like I've maybe done that for 6 or 7 people, so it's not really. It's probably covered the people that I've lost temporarily.
Yeah. I suppose you've just got to do what you've got to do at this moment in time, as long as you're able to survive as an individual and also as a business, you know, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to open up again once this is all over with no like financial struggle, which might be easier said than done, but you know, essentially you've got, you know, as long as you're sorted, mate, I suppose that's all that counts.
Yeah, I mean the worst thing that a couple of places around sort of our way, like, I really don't. It pisses me off, to be honest. It just seems like really unnecessary and pretty extortionate. But a couple of the CrossFit gyms, which already I think are around 60 quid a month membership. There was one girl that my girlfriend's friends with, and she was basically saying she was still paying a membership, and then there was a 15 quid per week rental fee on top of that for a bar and 80 kilos worth of plates, I think.
Right.
I was just like, well, that is an absolute piss take. Like, you're paying your membership to support the gym, and you're just getting shafted by paying twice as much as what your membership is just to borrow a small amount of kit.
I suppose it just shows the intention of the gym itself.
Yeah.
You know, like I think your client retention will be for yourself. I don't think you'll have an issue, because your gym is essentially a reflection of yourself as well. So
yeah.
But places like that, I think, yeah, you know, you might make a quick buck. You might make, you know, a couple of thousand, or maybe a couple of hundred. I don't know, depending. But longevity wise, most probably gonna lose out.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, is look after the people that are here, and hopefully they'll reciprocate that and look after the gym sort of in the long run. But I think it's just, I don't know, some people have become a little bit too business minded with the high demand of kit and stuff that people want. And
yeah, I thought about it myself as well. Like, I've got some pieces, but I mean, with the dumbbells, I do it at a pound a kilo, which I think is pretty reasonable, to be honest with you.
What is that? Just a pound a kilo to rent them for the entire time they've
for the month. So for a month period. So say if they're bought, say 10 kilo hectagonal dumbbells, 2 of them, what's that like? So that'd be like 20 quid for the month. Which, it's to buy, I guess you're looking at about 10 quid a kilo. So it's cost effective if you don't want to be like labored with a load of equipment once this is over.
Yeah. The when I'd sorted out all the members in the gym, I put something up on social media just saying that I was happy to lend kit to non-members, but that they would need to pay a rental fee, which was just the membership fee, which is only 25 quid per month, but they would have to pay a deposit or a security deposit of the face value of the equipment in case I didn't get it back. So then I could just replace it straight off the back there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I thought about this.
I never ended up doing that, but
yeah, maybe, don't know. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, it was all people I knew anyway, so it wasn't.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, yeah, for myself, like I've made a conscious effort to rent the equipment out to friends, family, and clients.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you don't know whether you'll get it back. But you'd like to think, wouldn't you, that there's again just a bit of respect there.
Yeah, I think it's especially people that are more serious with their training. I think it's something that they would respect as well, is you providing them with the stuff to complete the sort of religious sort of training regime, or whatever that they would normally follow. So like money almost has become like no object to some people. Like they're just, as long as they've got shit to train with, like they don't give a shit.
I mean, for myself, I'm quite blessed really with the equipment that Peak Physique lent me as well, because they've given me a few plates, which is very decent of them, and also the arms, to do squatting and potentially do bench press. But I've been, as you can see, I've been using chairs.
Yeah, well,
floor pressing with chairs.
Yeah, floor press and just the hammer exercises is the main stuff I've seen, I think, recently.
Yeah.
I managed to order one through Louis, is it?
Yeah, Louis. Yeah. So what? So he's commissioning you one. He's gonna make you one? Is he? Did you say?
He's made and sent one, I believe. I haven't got it yet.
Oh, really?
He only sent it yesterday, but
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like a nice lad, so hopefully he gets there and stuff. But
yeah, he's pretty decent. From what I know of him, he's a member at the gym. But yeah, he gave me that hammer on goodwill as well. So like we met up and he gave me it, and I didn't have any cash on me at that moment in time. And he's like, "No, no worries," So like my word was good. Obviously, like I bank transferred him it when I got back home. But
well, he seemed very relaxed with the whole payment system. I said, like, if you need the money up front to cover materials and stuff, like, happy to do it that way. But said I'm not gonna shaft you or anything either. I genuinely want the hammer. So
he's a nice kid, mate. Like, what weight have you got? Do you know?
Well, I just had the same as the one that you have, because it seemed the easiest approach.
It's more challenging than you think. Do you know? Like, I know it's only it was like 11 kilo, but just because of the leverage on it, the way it's positioned at the top,
Yeah.
And obviously grip strength is massively compromised, especially as you go lower down the handle.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
But really cool, mate. Like, just real fun. Like,
yeah, I mean, I probably won't use it much. Like, it will just be a cool, gimmicky little feature in the gym. But
yeah,
that's why I want it.
yeah, I completely.
I'll have a play around with it as well for sure. But yeah, when he sort of said, how do you want it, and I was like, what are the options? He was like, well, handle length and weight.
Yeah.
And then he said that you had the rings on the handle for grip or something as well. I was just like, oh, fuck me. I said, just exactly the same is fine, mate. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, I mean,
yours look pretty good. So.
Oh, it is, mate. Look, it looks the bollocks, mate. It looks very good.
I have no idea how he's made that though. It's.
I don't ask questions, mate. The only thing I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to put some rubber between the metal rings.
Right.
Because when you use it, if you're not careful, I wouldn't say it can cut you, but obviously
sort of chafe a little bit.
Yeah. So I've got like some I would say like an inch band that would been broken, and all I've been doing is just chopping it up into strips, like Gorilla gluing it together and then putting it over where there's.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So whether it'll stick or not is another question. I've done one of them. I've done one ring, but I've got like maybe 4 or 5 more to do. So.
Yeah.
Problem is the band's in bright fluorescent pink. So
okay.
It might look a little bit spicy when I've finished it.
What I was trying to think the other day, but what colour is Thor's like from his actual hammer in the movies? Like, what is it, brown or gold? I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Yeah,
I was thinking about getting either getting it painted or some sort of finish for the handle to get it that colour. But then I was just like, it sounds like a lot of hassle for what it's worth. Potentially,
it could be a bit of a gimmick, like like what I've done on my social media, just fucking about with it. Just generates a little bit of interest. It's unique and it's a bit different. I suppose you could be having a play around with it in your gym with the logo of your gym in the background. You know, come up with some like weird exercises, like I don't know, just whatever.
Yeah, right. It's clearly like it stands out as a post, because I think the first post you put up with it, I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck's that? That's cool." And then I was like, "Oh, I want one." And now I've got one on the way. So
I said to Louis, I said, I'll promote this for you, mate. And I must have got about 5 or 6 people message me directly after I made that first post on it. Like, where did you get that from? Like, I want one.
Yeah, you don't see it. You don't see it anyway. Like, you get those long sort of top-heavy maces, but like they don't look cool.
Exactly.
I'm sure that they're probably more effective training-wise, but they don't look cool. So
well, you can get I think I don't know. I know there's a certain company that does. It's a loadable hammer, but I'm not sure what the make of the company is. But it's a loadable one, so you can fill it up with like sand or like like.
Oh right, yeah. I don't think I've seen.
I'll ping you it over later on anyway. But yeah, you can get loadable ones. But I think, to be honest with you, getting one custom made's miles cooler.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be a lot more expensive, especially during this time.
Well, I think it would be if it was anybody else, but I think because it's him, and it's something that's not really business. It's just like a little bit of a hobby.
Yeah, he almost just seemed like happy to do it.
Yeah, I think he is, because
and then just like a bit of money for it as well. So like, he's probably still making a bit of money, but like
he could potentially make a lot more. But
I mean, I said to him like, how much is it going to cost? And he said, well, just same as what you paid, which was 50, and then I just had to cover the postage as well, which was fine. But I mean, if he'd have said it was 200 quid, I probably would have been like, yeah, all right. But yeah, don't tell him I said that.
Yeah, but I thought the same, to be honest with you. I just plucked that number out of the air because I think like he'd already made it.
Yeah.
And like, what else was he going to do with it now he'd made it? Because I think for him, the pleasure was actually just creating the object.
Yeah, and it all actually turning out to be, well, a very neatly finished, successful product, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he could, definitely produce more of them. I'm pretty sure, like, I reckon even Strength Shop, if he messaged Strength Shop, and because they're always like the guys that they sponsor and stuff, like if you come up with like an idea to them or like a suggestion, they're always like, oh yeah, we'll look at getting that made up, or like they get stuff made up as and when like there's demand for it, I guess, or if there's something new to be made.
Yeah, I was discussing this with Neil as well, because Neil was on about creating some pieces of equipment that that are functional, that work really well in terms of like gym equipment, because like obviously you can buy, as you know, because you know you've got a gym yourself, you can buy equipment, but like not all of it works very well.
Yeah.
So when we went to competition before Titled and Strong, I think we went to an Ultraflex in Rotherham, and
yeah, is that Kuba's place?
Yeah. And even though like I thought it was impressive the amount of equipment that they had, I would say, you know, they maybe had like on average maybe like 3 or 4 pieces for like a, not even for a body part, but for like a certain like machine. But none of them, in my opinion, worked as well as the ones that I used in a Spit and Sawdust gym.
Yeah, that's exactly the same as what I'm like over at my gym.
Yeah.
Like there's this gym the next town across that I said I nipped across to get some bits from, and he's got like, it's probably about 4 or 5 times the size of my gym, but whereas mine's mainly all used stuff, it like the gym was already there when I took over, when I bought it, but he started up maybe 5, 6 years ago now, and he's got all brand new Watson stuff, and I think he's got some Hammer Strength, all are like the top bodybuilding machine sort of brands, and like I've been in there and trained several times, and there's nothing in his gym that I would replace with what I have.
Exactly.
And it's probably about 7 or 8 times the price, like each individual piece of equipment.
Yeah, I mean, this is my only concern with people.
Other than it looks nicer.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like it's having a fit bed in it. Like if they've got no personality, then you get bored after a certain amount of time, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's the functionality of the outcome you're trying to obtain. Like if that is better than something else.
I think this is why I think this is why I like the commercial gyms as well. Like me personally, I wouldn't train at a commercial gym just because the equipment's most probably not rigged up to work optimally. It's there to look good.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably quite fair. Like it's all like shiny top of the range stuff to draw in more people.
It's more of a business thing than it is actually like a performance thing.
And it's not to draw in 10 more like good level bodybuilders who will appreciate how good this machine functions. It's 10 more Instagram fit chicks that will post videos of their workouts using this machine, not really knowing how beneficial it might be, but it's gonna result with more exposure and more income
Don't
effectively.
get me wrong, I don't have a problem with that, but but yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
As a sort of as a lifter,
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely a big thing I would look for in a gym. Like, I don't think I would do well going to a gym any other kind than sort of what my one is now, which is pretty. It helps being small because it's never really that crowded. But yeah, it is effectively like a bit of a strength / bodybuilding. Definitely more strength since I've had it, but it's kind of like modern old school, I would call it. Like, if like it's not kind of old and filthy and fucked, because that's kind of how it used to be. And then I kind of tried to reface it and make it a little bit more approachable, a bit more
sounds very similar to Peak Physique, in all honesty.
Yeah.
I'll have to when the lockdown's over, mate. I'll have to pop down and have a session there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a understatement, pop down, but
man.
Are you guys anywhere near Manchester? I'm assuming you're about an hour away or so.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit further.
So it took us, I think, 6 hours to drive to Manchester.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe if we're around that area at any point, I'll give you a bell.
Yeah, no, just pop down, mate.
Yeah, just a quick pop over.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest. I guess it balances out because there's a lot of like really nice and a lot of beautiful scenery, and it's very relaxed down here, and sort of way of life is very chilled out, but it's so far away from anything.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, if ever we go to a competition, like Bristol normally is the nearest.
Right. Okay.
I've just started. Well, this year it's in September, but last June I hosted a qualifier at the gym, and it worked, but only because there's a small handful of people who were into training down there, and the rest of the people were kind of lured in for a long sort of holiday weekend type thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, like any sort of time we go away, the airport isn't again normally Bristol. It's a bit of a nightmare for all that, but the gym itself is like, it's so niche that like there's probably less than 10 like serious trainers that go there. Whereas if it was like, up in one of the, not even in one of the cities, but in a more populated area, it would probably be absolutely like full to the brim. And because it's got a lot of specialist stuff in there, that, to be honest, half the people that go in there probably don't even know what they're picking up and what they're using it for.
Yeah, but at the same time, as you said, because it is relatively quiet and you have got that small knit community, that in itself is, I suppose, a benefit.
I couldn't sort of run the gym or trust some of the people, or wouldn't be able to do some stuff, or like going away and stuff, without having the gym covered and just letting sort of one person sort of look after it. Or like if it's in certain areas of the country, then it would probably be hard or very stressful to do shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like, I could probably leave the front door open to the gym for a week and nothing would get stolen.
You definitely wouldn't get that in Hull, I'll tell you, mate.
Yeah.
As soon as because I've got like a little porch out back, and I'm even apprehensive to leave my stuff out on there for 5-10 minutes without me being attended.
Right.
So I suppose that's a positive of being in that area.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got its pros and cons. Let's put it that way. But yeah, that would be one of the pros for sure of owning a gym in a location like that. But yeah, it's mainly retired people really down here, and people that come down with kids that just want to bring their kids up in like a nice chilled out location. But
sounds very quaint, mate.
Yeah, it's a little bit behind the rest of the country in terms of like just being up to speed with like shit that happens. Like, for example, we only got Nando's, I think, in Plymouth, which is 2 hours away from where we live.
All right, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, just in terms of like that, like we're very just behind on that kind of front, I guess. Like we've only just last few years had Domino's down here, I think.
And I'm sure
so
you've
like
taken full advantage of that when you're bulking.
Yeah. So like, yeah, it's fine now, but like whenever we go away now, we'll either always get a Nando's or a Five Guys, because the nearest one's 2 hours away.
Yeah, I think Five Guys for us. I don't know if we've got one in Hull.
All right.
But yeah, Hull was I suppose similar in a sense. It was like up until recently, Hull was maybe a little bit backwards in terms of cities, mainly because it's a smaller city, and also because it's most probably not as lucrative as other parts of the country. But luckily, I think we've come up to speed over the last 10 years. It's become more cosmopolitan. But it's still nowhere near like the likes of like Leeds, Manchester, London. It's not even anywhere near. But yeah. Anyway, mate, I'm gonna love you and leave you, mate, because
I'm gonna go and grab some food as well, I think, now, mate, because
but you're starving, aren't you?
I had a pizza and some sweet potatoes just before, so when I was watching the deadlift.
Right, okay, yeah.
So not too bad, but I was over at the gym today doing some painting still my own, so I didn't really take much decent food for lunch, so had an early dinner, which has thrown me a little bit, but I just try and get maybe just some, I don't know, fucking cereal or something in.
Yeah, I've been eating all sorts of shit. Like, saying that I did a 36-hour fast a few days ago just to see if I could do it.
Yeah. Do you get to like what, I don't know, maybe 12 to 16 hours? Is that like the worst bit, maybe? Or
I found it relatively easy because I based it on sleep time as well. So like basically like a full day of not eating, but when you set your mind to it, it's not like, and obviously like I just smashed in loads of stimulants as well just to get me through the day, and that definitely sorted it out. But I'm debating doing it relatively regular. But I'm doing a podcast tomorrow with a friend of mine who was a big advocate of it.
Yeah.
So I'll get that posted up as well, and maybe have a little look into that. Maybe not for your own, but like just out of curiosity.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've seen a couple of people just experimenting with fasting, and I think one, I can't remember who it was. So I'm pretty sure a guy that I chat to quite regularly said he was going to try and do a 48-hour fast once a week.
Yeah,
I think. Which, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's a pretty good way of reducing your weekly intake quite dramatically, as long as you don't overspill with the other 5 days. But
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it could definitely help with body composition for powerlifters.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking about anyway. Not that
I actually, when I fast before, when I'm preparing to water cut, I actually prefer the point where I'm fasting rather than having minimal food, because once I've had my last bit of food, I'm like, right, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to not eat rather than just eat a little bit and then be like, oh, let's have a little bit more, or I'm still a bit hungry. Or
Yeah,
like, once it's out, it's out.
It's almost like devil's advocate as well, isn't it? Once you have a little bit, you're like, what if I just had a little bit more? That'd be all right.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you know it, you've like smashed in a full Domino's, mate, and you've your diet has gone to shit.
Yeah. I did that before. So after the GPC Brits in August, I did the Irish Pro in September.
Mm-hmm.
Cut down to 81.9, I think it was, for the Brits. And then I was like, all right, sweet, I'll compete at 82.5 again a month later at the Irish. So during this time, I had already been dieting for about 6 weeks. It was fine. And then afterwards, I started training with Tom, which was a completely new style and stimulus of training, which absolutely knocked me for 6. And I just couldn't stop eating.
Yeah.
So a week before the Irish, I was at a mate's wedding. I don't drink or anything, so I was like, I'll drive over. They had like the most amazing like spread of food on there with like this little ice cream van in the back. I ended up eating all the food, 2 lots of ice cream, and then on the way home, I was like, I said to Tor, I was like, I've fucked it now. I might as well have a bit more. Went to McDonald's on the way back and got like an extra 1,600 calories or something ridiculous. And then where I was supposed to be 89 at the start of the cut, I was 92. I was like, right, well, I've fucked this. Ended up weighing in half a kilo under.
Yeah.
Over, sorry.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
And basically, if I'd have dropped the extra weight with the lifts I got, I think I would have ended up winning, which would have been €1,000 as well. So.
Fuck yeah. Well, they're rocking up to Titled and Strong. Neil was like, I can't believe it. Like you were an anomaly, because I was like barely taking on any food. Like I was like dehydrated. My body was just holding on to it. It wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
It's fucking terrible, mate. I must have had about like 10 hot baths.
Oh, when you were trying to drop the weight, you mean?
Yeah, when I was trying to drop the weight, like it was just like holding. There was I think it was because I introduced a bit of test prior to, and
right.
My body just like balloons on that. So it's just like, it was like a bad situation, I think.
Yeah.
So I had to drop that out, like, because I was just putting on weight too easy.
Yeah. Was during the actual cut, were you like, you said you had like 10 hot baths, were you getting in the bath, getting out, and the scales weren't changing?
There was, but it was like the increments were fucking low, mate. Like I was just like,
were you did you get quite stressed out about it?
I wouldn't say I got stressed out. It was just a very long process. I was just very drained, I think, at the end of it. And I think it got to a point where I got to the number I was happy at, but it was literally like I was checking in with Neil like every hour, just saying like, look, mate, like this is where it's at.
Yeah.
And it was only afterwards he said to me, he said, you know what, like he said he wasn't concerned, but he said he'd not seen anybody struggle like that for a while.
Yeah. I actually messaged Neil a week out, or just under a week out, after that massive splurge at the wedding. I was like, look, mate, I'm like 92.5 here. I've got to get down to 82. Do you think it's doable? He said it's doable, but it's not going to be nice.
Yeah.
And because I'd done that cut a month before, I just had like nothing in me. I got down to like 83.5, I think, on my scales at the hotel. And this was up through the night. I don't think I got any sleep. Is the worst I've felt. And I was getting in the bath, getting out, and it just wasn't moving. And I was just like, no, I've had enough. Like, that's all I've got.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I hadn't have done the other one beforehand, I would have made it quite comfortably. But
Yeah, I
It
think
just it was too long-winded.
Yeah, it's an accumulative effect, and it eventually, like, mentally, you get fatigued as well.
That's exactly how I felt when I got out of the bath for the last time and like looked at the scales and they didn't budge, and I was just like, that's it then. And like I just had no motivation to keep trying. I was just like, nah, that's like, I think even if in hindsight, if I'd have said to myself, well, you're going to win if you get this extra half kilo off, or you're going to lose if you don't, it might have had some difference, but I think I had the attitude of, oh, that will be enough, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it completely just bit me in the ass. But it's a good lesson to learn from a mistake, I guess.
Yeah. Don't go to weddings before a comp.
Don't go to weddings, and don't cut twice in 2 months.
Yeah.
The one at the Brits as well, I made a mistake and came second overall, which was like 400 quid money as well. So like in 2 months, I came second in 2 comps because of 2 mistakes and lost out on 1,400 quid. So
yeah,
it's a pretty good learning curve.
Yeah, steep one, mate, but never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not going to let that happen again, because it's a bit embarrassing more than anything.
Yeah, I won't worry about it though. It's one of those, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, okay, I'll leave it to it, mate. Anyway, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Great speaking to you.
Yeah, and you, mate. Well,
I'll give you a bell shortly anyway, and I'll go through this most probably tomorrow and just like splice it up a little bit, because it's about,
yeah,
I reckon
good luck.
It's nearly like 2 hours worth of content, so there'll be loads on here. But yeah,
there's probably only about 15 minutes of good content.
just talking about dominoes and weddings. Right, okay,
Right.
I'll leave it to it anyway, mate.
Yeah. Good chatting to you, mate. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, okay, take care, mate. See you in a bit. Bye-bye.